Welcome back to Ben's Book Summaries.
Oh.
Today we're taking a deep dive into The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of this one.
Yeah. Have you read it?
I have, yeah. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, he's kind of picking up where he left off with the coddling of the American mind.
Right, yeah, exploring kind of the mental health challenges that Gen Z is facing.
And it's pretty eye-opening, honestly. I mean, we're going to be looking at a whole bunch of research and personal anecdotes from the book
Yeah,
and hopefully kind of glean some insights that might change how we view things.
for sure. I think this one's definitely going to spark some good conversation.
Absolutely. So, like, right off the bat, Haidt hits us with these really powerful visuals.
Yeah.
Graphs, actually, in the book, showing this really sharp rise in anxiety and depression among teens and college students. And the crazy thing is it all starts around 2012.
Yeah, that timing is super significant
Yeah.
because it lines up perfectly with, the rise of smartphones and social media. It's like Haidt makes this really interesting comparison.
Okay.
He says, imagine raising a child on Mars.
Okay, a Martian childhood.
Right. It sounds wild, but it really helps us grasp what Gen Z is experiencing.
So break that down for me. What's the connection there?
Well, think about it. Mars is this totally unknown environment with all these potential dangers.
Right.
Haidt's saying that for Gen Z, growing up in this constantly connected digital world,
Right.
it's kind of like being raised on that alien planet. There are all these unknowns and long-term consequences we don't fully understand yet.
So like those Martian kids adapting to lower gravity.
Exactly.
Gen Z is navigating this whole phone-based existence.
Yeah, and we're all kind of part of this big experiment with Gen Z as the test subjects.
We don't even know the results of this experiment.
Right, exactly. The long-term effects are still unfolding.
Yeah, it's a little unnerving when you think about it.
It is. In the book, Haidt calls this the Great Rewiring. He says we've gone from a play-based childhood to a phone-based childhood, and that shift has huge implications for how young minds develop.
It's true.
Yeah.
I think about my own childhood.
Yeah.
And it was all about being outside, playing make-believe, building forts.
Yeah.
You were learning social skills, taking risks, facing real-world challenges.
Exactly.
But now kids are constantly stimulated by these phones,
Right.
but it's often this curated online reality.
And there's that constant pressure of social comparison.
Ugh, don't even get me started on that.
That's a whole other layer of stress.
Yeah, Haidt uses this phrase, experience blockers.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
I know, right?
Hmm.
To describe how phones limit those real-world experiences that are so crucial for development.
He even has data showing that fewer teens are hanging out with friends in person these days.
It's kind of sad when you think about it.
It is. Like, are we trading genuine connection for these curated online personas?
It's a good question. And the book points out this leads to a whole bunch of problems. He calls them the 4 foundational harms of this phone-based childhood.
Right, right.
We've talked about the social deprivation aspect,
Right.
but what are the others? Lay it on us.
Okay, so besides the social deprivation, Haidt talks about sleep deprivation, attention fragmentation, and addiction.
Wow.
It's a lot. And he's got some pretty startling statistics to back it up.
Okay, well, let's break it down.
All right, so first, sleep. We all know how hard it is to disconnect from our phones,
For sure.
and that's making it harder for teenagers especially to get enough sleep.
And we know how important sleep is.
Oh, absolutely. It affects everything, learning mood, even physical health.
Totally.
The book cites studies showing a big increase in teen sleep deprivation, which is pretty alarming.
It really is. Okay, what about this attention fragmentation thing?
Yeah, well, think about how often we're all switching between tasks, bombarded by notification.
Oh my gosh, all the time.
Right. It's like our brains are being rewired to be distractible.
It's true. I feel it myself sometimes.
Haidt says this makes it harder to focus and really learn deeply.
Yeah.
He even compares it to addiction.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he says social media apps are designed to hijack our brain's reward systems.
Like literally addictive.
Yeah. He even brings in Anna Lemke, who's an addiction researcher, to explain how serious this is.
Oh, wow. So it's not just kids being glued to their screens.
Right. Yeah, it's about the potential for real physiological dependence.
That's scary.
It is, for sure. And this leads to another important point that Haidt makes.
Okay.
This phone-based childhood doesn't affect boys and girls in the same way.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, he presents evidence showing a much sharper rise in anxiety and depression among girls.
Really?
Yeah, likely because of the pressures of social media,
Right.
the constant comparisons, the curated online identities, cyberbullying.
Oh, yeah. It's like a whole other level of pressure for girls.
Exactly, and for boys.
Yeah. Are they immune to this digital anxiety?
Well, while girls seem to experience this more sudden spike in anxiety and depression, Haidt points to a slower, more gradual decline in boys' well-being.
Interesting.
He suggests that boys are increasingly withdrawing from school and real-world engagement, often retreating into video games and increasingly pornography.
So it's like two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. It's not just about mental health. It's about how these trends are shaping an entire generation's engagement with the world.
And that has huge implications for all of us.
Absolutely. Haidt doesn't stop there, though.
Okay.
He goes on to explore the broader societal consequences of this great rewiring.
Okay, so tell me more about that.
Right.
What are some of those consequences?
Well, he argues that this shift to online interaction actually weakens communities.
Okay.
And it leads to something called anomie.
Anomie.
Yeah, it's the sense of normlessness and disconnection from shared values.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty heavy concept.
It is. It's like we're losing that sense of belonging and shared purpose.
Which can be really isolating and disheartening.
Absolutely.
But I mean, Haidt doesn't just leave us with a doom and gloom message, does he?
Yeah. No, not at all. He actually offers some potential solutions.
Go on. I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah, the anxious generation gets really hopeful when he starts talking about how we can turn things around.
Okay, so tell me more about that. What are some of the solutions he proposes?
Well, he outlines solutions at different levels, like for society, schools, and families.
Okay, that sounds promising.
Yeah,
So it's not just about fixing kids, it's about fixing the systems around them.
exactly. It's a much broader approach.
I like that. So let's dive into those solutions. What does Haidt suggest we do?
Well, first, he talks about the need for government regulation,
Okay.
especially for tech companies to protect minors.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, they have a lot of power.
They do. He actually points to the UK's age-appropriate design code as a possible model.
What's that all about?
Well, it's this code that requires platforms to prioritize children's well-being
Interesting.
and limit harmful content by design.
So it's not just about reacting to problems after they happen.
Exactly. It's about building in safeguards from the start.
I like that. Okay, so that's government regulation. What else does he talk about?
Well, he also makes a strong case for phone-free schools.
Interesting. I can see how that would be controversial.
It definitely is. But he cites some really compelling examples.
Like what?
There's this school in Colorado Mountain Middle School. They implemented a phone ban, and the results were incredible. Bullying decreased, students were more engaged with each other during breaks.
Wow, so it actually worked.
It did. Haidt argues that this kind of policy change could really improve well-being and create a more focused learning environment.
It's like hitting the reset button on all those ingrained habits.
Exactly. And it's not just about banning phones.
Okay.
It's about rediscovering the power of play.
Ah, I love that.
He's a big advocate for unstructured free play, not just organized sport.
Right, like just letting kids be kids.
Exactly. He highlights the Let Grow project.
What's that?
It's this initiative encouraging free play.
Yeah.
The idea is to give kids the space and freedom to explore, take risks, and learn through experience.
So it's not about hovering and overscheduling them.
Right. It's about letting them navigate the world, even if it gets a little messy sometimes.
I think that's so important. It builds resilience and confidence.
Absolutely.
Okay, so he's got solutions for society and schools. What about for parents? What advice does he give?
Oh, he's got a ton of practical tips for parents.
Like what?
Well, he suggests delaying smartphone use as long as possible,
Makes sense.
setting clear limits on screen time,
Yeah.
and most importantly, modeling healthy tech habits themselves.
That's huge. I mean, kids learn by watching us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If they see their parents constantly on their phones, they'll think that's normal behavior.
Right. It's about leading by example.
Exactly. And creating a family culture that prioritizes connection and well-being.
It's funny how we've become so used to this always-on mentality that we've forgotten how to just be present with each other.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it? We have all this technology that's supposed to connect us. Yeah.
But it often ends up driving us further apart.
It's a real paradox. But Haidt's not saying we need to demonize technology, is he?
No, not at all. He's just saying we need to be more mindful and intentional with its use.
I like that.
It's about setting boundaries and reclaiming our time and attention.
Yeah, like taking back control of our digital lives.
Exactly. And he even suggests tapping into ancient wisdom.
Oh, interesting. Like what?
Practices like meditation and spending time in nature,
Okay.
things that emphasize stillness and presence.
To counterbalance all the digital stimulation.
Exactly. There's a lot of wisdom in those ancient traditions.
Yeah, they knew a thing or two about living a balanced life.
They did.
Yeah.
But before we go too far down that path,
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear more about your thoughts on Jonathan Haidt himself.
Okay.
His background and how this book has been received.
Sure. Well, Haidt is a really well-respected social psychologist.
Mhm.
He's dedicated his career to studying things like morality, political polarization, and even the psychology of happiness.
Yeah. And his work often sparks a lot of debate.
I can see why.
Yeah, he's not afraid to tackle controversial topics.
Yeah.
And The Anxious Generation is no exception.
Right. It's a book that hits close to home for a lot of people.
Exactly. I mean, some people have praised the book for its in-depth analysis and practical solutions, but others have criticized him for overstating the negative impacts of technology and social media.
So there's a range of opinions.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Like with anything else, there are multiple perspectives.
Right.
And it's important to consider all sides.
Absolutely.
But I think Haidt's central message is really important,
And what's that?
that we need to be more aware of the potential consequences of our digital habits.
That's one for young people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So far in our deep dive into the anxious generation, what's resonated most with you?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's the concept of experience blockers.
Yeah, that one really stuck with me
It
too.
makes you stop and think about how often you're on your phone.
Right. And missing out on real life moments.
Exactly. It's a good reminder to be more present.
Absolutely. And for you, what stood out, what I think, it's Haidt's discussion of anime.
Oh, yeah, the sense of normlessness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He suggests that it's fueled in part by our increasing reliance on online interaction.
Which makes sense. I mean, when we're constantly interacting online,
Yeah.
it's harder to cultivate a sense of belonging and shared purpose.
It's like we're all in our own little bubbles scrolling through these curated feeds
Right.
that just reinforce our existing beliefs and biases.
And it can be tough to break out of those echo chambers
Sure.
and engage in meaningful dialogue with people who hold different views.
It's like we're losing those serendipitous encounters.
Yeah.
Those moments of genuine connection that happen when we step outside our digital bubbles.
That's a really good point. I think Haidt's book really highlights the importance of those real-world interactions
Yeah.
for fostering a sense of community and shared values.
It's about being present in our communities, participating in local events, even just striking up a conversation with a stranger at the coffee shop.
Those small interactions can make a big difference.
Totally. And it's not just about combating loneliness.
Right.
It's about creating a more empathetic and connected society.
Exactly. And this ties into Haidt's call to action.
Okay.
He believes we need to be more proactive in shaping the digital landscape.
So it's not about rejecting technology altogether.
No, it's about using it more consciously
Oh.
and creating a culture that prioritizes well-being and connection.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like we've kind of sleepwalked into this hyper-connected world
I know, right?
without really considering the long-term consequences.
Yeah,
It's time to wake up and start making more mindful choices
absolutely.
about how we interact with technology.
And Haidt reminds us that we're not powerless in this situation.
Right.
We have the power to set boundaries, to reclaim our time and attention,
Yeah.
to create a digital world that fosters connection rather than isolation.
It's about taking back control of our digital lives.
Exactly. And it starts with small steps.
Like what?
Setting limits on screen time, being more mindful of our social media use,
Yeah.
making a conscious effort to prioritize real-world interactions.
Those small changes can have a ripple effect,
They can, and they can lead to a more balanced and fulfilling life.
not just for ourselves,
Right.
but for future generations.
Exactly. And speaking of future generations,
Yeah.
I think Haidt's book offers a really valuable roadmap for parents and educators
Yeah.
who are navigating the complexities of raising kids in the digital age.
It's like a wake-up call to be more intentional
Right.
about the digital environment we're creating for young people.
He's encouraging us to be more thoughtful about the messages we're sending, both explicitly and implicitly, about technology use.
Yeah, it's not just about what we say.
Right.
It's about what we do.
Exactly. It's about setting healthy boundaries, fostering open communication, and equipping kids with the skills they need to navigate the digital world safely and responsibly.
So it's not about sheltering them from technology.
Right.
It's about empowering them to use it wisely.
Exactly. It's about helping them become critical thinkers,
Mm-hmm.
to question the messages they're bombarded with online,
Right.
and to make informed choices about their digital consumption.
And reminding them that true connection happens in the real world,
Absolutely, face to face.
where they can build genuine relationships
Mm,
and develop those essential social and emotional skills.
right.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
The Anxious Generation is such a thought-provoking and timely book.
It is.
It offers us a really powerful lens through which to view the challenges and opportunities of our increasingly digital world.
It really does. It invites us to engage in this critical conversation
Yeah.
about how we want to live, how we want to connect, and what kind of future we want to create for ourselves and for generations to come.
It's a call to action for all of us
It is.
to step back, reevaluate our relationship with technology, and make conscious choices that prioritize well-being, connection,
Right.
and a sense of shared humanity.
I love that. It's about recognizing that technology is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill.
It's up to us to decide how we wield it.
Absolutely. And that's a powerful message to leave our listeners with.
It is. Well, before we wrap up this episode of Ben's Book Summaries,
Yes.
I want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the anxious generation.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope it sparked some reflection.
Yeah.
And maybe even inspired some positive changes in your own life.
We encourage you to keep exploring these ideas,
Yeah.
to have conversations with your family and friends, and to really think about the role technology plays in your own well-being and in the well-being of your community.
Because remember, you're not alone in this.
We're all in this together.
We're all navigating this digital landscape together, and we have the power to shape it for the better.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep those deep dives going.
I love it. See you next time.
See, yeah. Yeah, so, Haidt isn't just pointing fingers and dwelling on the problems.
Right. He offers some hope.
Exactly. He lays out this whole roadmap for change.
And where do we start with that?
Well, he talks about the need for government regulation to protect minors.
Okay, so like what kind of regulations are we talking about here?
Well, he specifically mentions the UK's age-appropriate design code as a potential model.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that. What does that entail?
So basically, it requires platforms to prioritize children's well-being from the get-go.
So like baking it into the design of the platform.
Exactly. It's not just about reacting to problems after they've happened.
So it's more preventative.
Right, like limiting harmful content and features by design.
That's really interesting. I wonder if something like that could work here.
It would be a big step in the right direction for sure.
Okay, so we've got government regulation as one solution. What else?
He also makes a strong case for phone-free schools.
Oh, wow, that's a bold move.
It is. But he actually cites some pretty compelling examples.
Okay, like what?
Well, there's this school in Colorado Mountain Middle School, I think it's called.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, they implemented a phone ban, and the results were pretty amazing.
Like what happened?
Well, for one thing, bullying decreased.
Really?
Yeah, and students were more engaged with each other during breaks.
So they were actually interacting.
Exactly. And Haidt argues that this kind of policy change could have a ripple effect on well-being and create a more focused learning environment overall.
It's like resetting those ingrained habits we were talking about earlier.
Right. And it's not just about banning phones altogether. It's about rediscovering the power of play.
Ah, yes, the good old days.
He's a big advocate for unstructured free play, not just organized sports.
So like letting kids just be kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He highlights this initiative called the Let Grow Project.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, it's all about encouraging free play, giving kids the space and freedom to explore, take risks, and learn through experience.
So it's not about hovering over them and scheduling every minute of their day.
Exactly. It's about giving them a little bit of independence and letting them navigate the world, even if it gets a little messy sometimes.
I think that's so important for building resilience and confidence.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about solutions for society and for schools, but what about for parents? What advice does Haidt give?
Yep. What can parents do at home?
He has a ton of practical tips for parents.
Okay, hit me with some of those tips.
Well, first and foremost, he suggests delaying smartphone use as long as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Then once kids do have phones, it's about setting clear limits on screen time.
Right. No phones at the dinner table, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And probably the most important tip he gives is to model healthy tech habits themselves.
Oh, yes. Lead by example.
Exactly, because kids are always watching us. If they see their parents glued to their phones all the time, they'll think that's normal behavior.
And that can be a tough one for parents to grapple with.
It can be. It's about setting a good example and creating a family culture that prioritizes connection and well-being.
It's interesting how we've gotten so used to this always-on mentality that we forget how to just be present with each other.
I know, it's ironic. We have all this technology that's supposed to connect us,
Yeah.
but it often ends up driving us further apart.
It's a real paradox.
Hmm?
So Haidt's not saying we should throw away all our technology.
No, not at all. He's just saying we need to be more mindful and intentional with its use.
That's a good point. We need to take back control of our digital lives.
Exactly. It's about setting boundaries and reclaiming our time and attention.
And how do we go about doing that?
Well, Haidt suggests tapping into ancient wisdom.
Oh, interesting. Like what?
Practices like meditation and spending time in nature,
Okay, I can see how those would be beneficial.
things that emphasize stillness and presence.
As a counterbalance to all the digital stimulation.
Exactly. There's a lot of wisdom in those ancient traditions.
They knew a thing or two about living a balanced life.
They did. It's like we've lost sight of those simple yet profound ways of being.
It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of technology and forget about the importance of slowing down and connecting with ourselves and nature.
Exactly. And I think Haidt's point is that it's not about rejecting technology altogether.
Right.
It's about finding that balance.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So how do we go about finding that balance?
Well, Haidt argues that we need to be more proactive in shaping the digital landscape.
Okay, so it's not just about adapting to it.
Right. It's about taking control and creating a culture that prioritizes well-being and connection.
So it's a collective effort.
Exactly. It's not something we can do alone.
It's like we sleepwalked into this hyper-connected world without really thinking about the long-term consequences.
It's true. We've been so focused on the shiny new gadgets
Yeah.
that we haven't stopped to consider the potential downsides.
But Haidt's reminding us that we're not powerless
Right. We have the power to set boundaries.
to reclaim our time and attention.
Exactly. And to create a digital world that fosters connection rather than isolation.
It's about taking back control of our digital lives.
And that starts with small steps.
Okay. So what are some of those small steps we can take?
Well, for starters, we can set limits on screen time.
Yeah, that's a big one.
We can be more mindful of our social media use.
So like being more intentional about what we're consuming and how much time we're spending on it.
Exactly. And we can make a conscious effort to prioritize real-world interactions.
Like putting down the phone and actually talking to the people around us.
Right. Or planning activities that don't involve screens.
Those small changes can make a big difference.
You really can. And not just for ourselves.
Right. For our kids too.
Exactly. I think Haidt's book offers some really valuable insights for parents and educators.
It's like a wake-up call to be more intentional about the digital environment we're creating for young people.
We need to be more thoughtful about the messages we're sending.
Both explicitly and implicitly.
Right. It's not just about what we say.
It's about what we do,
Exactly. It's about setting healthy boundaries
fostering open communication.
and equipping kids with the skills they need to navigate the digital world safely and responsibly.
So it's not about sheltering them from technology.
No, it's about empowering them to use it wisely.
To be critical thinkers.
Right. To question the messages they're bombarded with online.
And to make informed choices about their digital consumption.
And most importantly, to remember that true connection happens in the real world,
Face-to-face?
where they can build genuine relationships and develop those essential social and emotional skills.
Well, I think we've had a really insightful conversation today.
Me too.
The Anxious Generation is such a thought-provoking book.
It really is. It offers a new perspective on the challenges and opportunities of our digital world.
And it challenges us to be more mindful and intentional in our relationship with technology.
Exactly. It's a call to action for all of us to step back, reevaluate our digital habits.
And make conscious choices that prioritize well-being, connection, and a sense of shared humanity.
I love that. It's about remembering that we're all in this together.
And that we have the power to shape the digital landscape for the better.
Absolutely.
Well, before we wrap up this episode of Ben's Book Summaries, I want to thank you again for joining me on this deep dive into the Anxious Generation.
It's been a pleasure.
I hope you found it as insightful as I did.
I definitely did.
And I encourage all of you listening to check out the book for yourselves
There's so much more to explore.
and to continue the conversation.
Yes. Talk to your friends, your family, your colleagues about these ideas.
Because it's only by talking about these issues that we can start to make real change.
Exactly. So until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep those deep dives going.
I love it. See you next time.